Thought that I was playing in the past, now I'm super fast, real raw, relevant. I'm also known as super bad, with a super attitude. If you don't like it, you can book a pass and be the first in line to kiss mine. Wait a minute, what I mean is I'm a lion, not a sheep. I don't need a weakling around to try to follow me. I'm destined to be better, get it bigger every day. I don't got the patience to sit around try to play. Focus like an animal, king of the jungle.
So my friends, welcome to the Revolution Podcast. I am Sean, as usual. We've got my friend Dustin here, and as you can tell, we're already we just jump into talking, and we're talking about racing. He's an athlete, Red Bull sponsored athlete.
Yeah, well, it's actually Wings for Life.
Wings for Life. I haven't had by Red Bull, right?
Yeah, it's owned by Red Bull.
I haven't had any Red Bull badasses come through here. You're the first, so we're gonna have to have you sign a picture or punch a hole in the wall or something just to leave your mark here. But we're talking about the Baja right now and racing and stuff. But to answer your question, how many trophy trucks were there, Jake? I think there was probably 30 or 40 trophy trucks. There's so many different classes. There was only 3 guys in our class. So 7SX was the class that we were in, which you try and have a truck or a vehicle or whatever, whether it's a razor, that you can race in multiple different organizations. That's kind of the frustrating part about racing is each organization is different. So these guys require this or this, or you have to have this kind of suspension in this one versus this and this. So our truck best matched up with 7SX. So there's 3 guys total in our class, but there's some classes that only had one. It was kind of funny. There was a couple classes that only had one truck or one entry, where you're basically guaranteed first place. To say that I won the Baja 500 if you can just cross the fucking finish line, which is really funny. When we were first looking at it 7SX, there was only one other truck, and so I'm like, sweet, dude. I mean, we're guaranteed second place. I mean, I want to win, but if he breaks down, we take first. So there's everything from trophy trucks to what we were talking about earlier, the Volkswagen Beetles, man. Those are the OGs of off-road racing. Guys used to race the craziest stuff, but there's literally stock Volkswagen Beetles, and they're not new. I mean, you're not talking air conditioning and plush leather and all kinds of crap.
80s.
These are 80s round pieces of tin that they don't look comfortable. I'm sure that they're not comfortable to drive. We've got a decent amount of suspension in our truck, and I literally thought my kidneys were going to explode. By mile 260, when is where I got out, the last 25, 30 miles of that, it was everything I had to not puke in my helmet. My kidneys and my liver felt like they were literally just going to explode. So I can only fathom what it would be like to drive a freaking teeny little Volkswagen Beetle in the Baja 500.
So when you're going through a race like that, obviously, what are the restraints? Do you wear kidney belts and all that kind of stuff anyway?
Well, I will now. My co-driver, DJ, had one.
Okay.
And I'm slamming around, and I'm like, dude, my fucking stomach. And he's like, mine too. He's like, do you have a kidney belt on? I'm like, no. And he's like, when we stop, I'll give you mine. I'm like, I didn't even know what those were really. But they have certain requirements on the helmet. Helmets are super, super important. They've got, state-of-the-art stuff. We've got the Hans device. You have to have a certain Hans device. So I run a similar device to a Hans device, which I'm going to switch mine to more of, it's like a shoulder. Have you seen those where now they're strapped? And they're way more flexible and movable. You can get out and move, where mine kind of locks my head in, kind of a deal. You have your fire suit, which has to be, they change the ratings and the certifications, but you've got to have the fire suit, you've got to have your neck restraint, and you have to have your helmet, which all meet the standards and stuff. But gloves aren't required, or racing shoes aren't required. I mean, we wear those just because. I tend to kick off my gloves within the first hour, because I'm sweating my ass off and it's super freaking hot. So, but yeah, I mean, everybody has to play ball in those same rules. But man, it's amazing to watch how many different vehicles are. And you have every level of the BJ Baldwins of the sport that have monster and gobs of money behind them. And you see this, I'm sure, to your everyday weekend warrior who puts his truck together or his vehicle together or his razor, whatever it is, in his garage, and him and his homies basically build it, and they're the weekend warriors coming out trying to compete. So that's what makes it fun to me, is you have every different level of competition. We're not racing against the trophy trucks, obviously, or else they'd literally run us over and kill everybody on the course. They start way before us, but it's so rad to see how many people get jacked up about this. Like we were talking about, a few minutes ago. there's so many cool people in off-road racing. You know what I mean? And I haven't been in the motocross industry or scene, but the off-road racing community has really surprised me how rad people really are, you know?
Yeah. And then you said even with the, like obviously the safety and you have the weekend warriors, people coming into that, but even just to complete these like tracks and stuff, obviously I'm sure like endurance and all that, your physical health has, I'm sure all that ties into it as well. I mean, like not anybody just can go do it. I mean, you have to be physically.
You see guys, I mean, driving a truck. It's really funny because there was a lot of people that when we finished, they were talking a whole lot of smack. Oh, dude, you got second, you know, out of, because we came in like third to last of all the trucks that actually finished. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There was a
whole bunch that didn't finish.
More than half the field that didn't finish. And some people's minds are like, oh, you're at the bottom of the list, right? I'm like, you don't understand. Like, you don't get finishing the race. Number one is like, my buddy that I talked to yesterday who's finished the Baja, who's raced it, he's been racing for 20 years. He's like, dude, I was literally the last 50 miles, I was watching you guys on the tracker, and he's like, I was yelling. I'm like, keep going, you know, because he knows how hard it is to finish that race.
Yeah, for sure.
Just to finish that race, you're talking the logistics and pit crews and fuel and braking shit and overheating and getting sick. There's so many elements that go into it to finish that race. People think you just jump in a car, you drive around a dirt track for a couple of minutes, and then you're done. Radically different than that. So to finish, my goal is to finish, which we did. As a natural competitor, finishing 7 minutes behind the guy in front of us, it's still eating me alive. People keep texting me 7 and all kinds of shit. And I'm like, dude, stop. You know what I mean? Yeah. But just to finish that race is incredible. To just cross that finish line is unbelievable, realizing that more than half of the people didn't. But even without that, just knowing that you went 515 of like the most gnarly, grueling miles through the craziest terrain that Mexico could throw at you, it's pretty freaking cool, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think
it's a sense of accomplishment. Like, we got emotional coming across because I'm like, we did it. You know what I mean? And your whole crew's there at the finish line, and everybody's like crazy tired because we haven't slept in like 40 something hours because we drive through the night. I mean, we started at noon and didn't finish until about 7:50 something the next morning. So it's not like people are back at the hotel waiting for you to finish. They're going from point to point to point, and there's a problem here, there's a problem there, or they're broken down and we run out of gas and we got to run shit around and whatever. So it really is like, it's one of the more fun things that I've done, you know, in my life.
How is the night driving through that kind of terrain? Sketchy, or is it better?
It's really
you can't
fun.
Really see it?
Couple things of that. It's actually really funny you asked that because, dude, you're like interviewing me. It's kind of funny.
Well, so interesting hearing this story about
I'm getting interviewed on my own podcast, Jake. I love it.
No, it's. I mean,
I love it. I love
awesome.
it. It's well, dude, and that's what I like. Why I'm excited to talk to you today, because like Justin's like, dude, he's badass, and you're an athlete and the whole thing. So I just love talking to other people that are doing cool shit. It was really weird at night because it's really sketchy. Because you can only see really what's in front of you, and you can see the edges of the roads.
Yeah.
But you don't know if you're on the edge of a 500-foot cliff, right, or if it just kind of rolls down and it's a big grassy meadow or dirt meadow or rocky meadow. Like, you really have no clue what's outside of you or past your peripheral vision at all, which is sketchy. But to me, it makes me focus even more because I'm like, there's no option for me to go off the trail right now, because if I do, I might just roll into a little freaking meadow, or I literally might fly 300 feet. And there's cliffs, you know, big cliffs all over the place down there. But it's also sketchy because, like, when you get into the dust during the day, you can have a sense of I've started learning how to kind of judge the terrain without seeing right in front of me. You can kind of tell from the sides, like, which way the trails are moving or the course is moving just based off the undulation right next to you. Mm-hmm. You can't see that at night. And so when you're growing through some of this stuff that you can't see, it's really sketchy because you have these like 10 billion watt light bars that are just blasting light into the night. And if it's just literally reflecting right back to you, there's parts where you can't see you can't see the edge of your hood, and you're doing 60 miles an hour on a dirt road, relying on this GPS that you think is accurate. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But there was one part that was really cool. We didn't get it on film because our GoPros ran out. But we're doing probably 60 miles an hour along this gravel, silty road. And the silt down there, everybody had told me, dude, the silt beds are all crazy. I'm like, yeah, cool, silt. It's like moon dust that just sucks the life out of you. This silt crap. It's the equivalent of like powder. It's not dirt. It's not gravel. It's like literally like powder. And so we're cruising around down this road, and we're probably doing between 55 and 60. And I can see in front of me. I can see what's going on. And we came into there's like puddles, almost like lakes of this silt. And it looks like it's a gravel road. It looks like it kind of just keeps going. And we're cruising along, and it's almost like we kind of came off this like jump. The truck goes down into this like pool of silt, and it literally throws a wave up over the truck. And I'm in this massive silt hole at black of night, 1 a.m. There's nobody around. Like, you can't fucking get stuck. So you got to keep motoring. But it literally throws a wave over the truck where I literally couldn't even see the steering wheel. It comes through, and it's not dust that just goes by. It just lingers around, and it's there. And my co-driver's like, go, 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 go. And I'm like, where the fuck am I going? I can't see anything, and I want to slow down. But you slow down, you get this stuff literally sucks your wheels, and it's so crazy. But you're in the middle of the night, and it's like you have no other option but to keep going because there's nobody around. This was a part of the course where we come down. The way the course is laid out, you leave Ensenada, and you kind of come inland about 50 miles, then you go back to the coast. And then you run down almost 170 miles, essentially kind of zigzagging along the coast. And then you cut across the entire peninsula. That's kind of like the sketchy spot because there's nowhere for your pit crew to go. So you have to make it from, the pit as far down as you can go to the opposite side towards La Paz. And there's literally no roads. It's nothing. It's barren, vacant. There's no towns. You pass no cities. There's no gas stations. There's nothing. It's 80-something miles of just nothing, And so as you're driving along there, that's where we're going through these mountain passes and silt beds and the whole thing. And I actually really liked driving at night. It was really cool driving at night. There's just a different mystique to it. There's more,
I'm sure it's
more danger to it, but at the same time, it's almost more relaxing. I'm more focused driving, but I don't know. I really liked it. I enjoyed it.
Because if you're focused and not like, so you have your one light, your beams that are giving you that much area to focus on in the daytime, you can look over and you see those drop-offs, or you see things that really might not even affect your driving, but it's like, well, shit, I know I don't want to go down there. So
and you're right, because it almost takes some of the variable out of it. Like you when you're like your sensory functions, you're like focused on all of these other things. Like you see cliffs, don't go down the cliff, slow down, there's danger, there's this. Where at night, it's like I have one direction to look because that's the only place I can see. I don't have spotlights shining off into the sides. It's like I'm looking one way and that's it. And it's like you're hyper focused on keeping the truck pointed in this direction, moving this way. And it's actually cool because it eliminates a lot of the other, I don't know if you want to call them distractions or variables or whatever it is.
Well, I would call it a distraction. I mean, because like you said, if there's a cliff over there that you're really not going to fall into, but you're looking at it when you should be, like you said,
looking over this way,
watching exactly where you're going. But I mean,
yeah. Dude, it was a trip, man. We'll have to get you in the truck one of these days.
Yeah,
like, I want to get everybody in the truck. I'm like, dude, come drive with me, because it's so freaking fun, man. It's really, I'm an adrenaline junkie. Like I love doing shit that scares me. I do it a lot less now, being 38, than I probably did when I was a kid, because my body's pretty jacked up and from doing a lot of stupid shit. But I love that rush, man. Like there's part of the video that Jake did where we're right on the starting line. There's literally thousands of people around. The girls are holding the green flags in front of the truck, and he's like 5, 4, and there's just that. Dude, we're starting Baja 500. There's no, hang on, give me 15 minutes. Let's get the truck more ready. Like, that when that flag drops and the timer goes, it's how quick, how efficiently can you navigate the next 515 miles and 20 hours of your life to bring this truck essentially full circle back to this finish line.
Yeah,
it's really cool because like you leave and the trucks are our truck. I'll show you our truck when we're done, dude.
Yeah, for sure.
We beat the shit out of it. I mean, we beat the hell out of it. They all leave like clean and nice, and you see guys coming back with no fenders. Like literally, there's dudes where like their front hoods are ripped off, where the engine's just hanging out, shit's dangling, dragging. There's one guy, Jake. See if you can find the picture of the guy who finished with the 3 wheels on the Razor. Just type in Baja 500 2017 3-wheel Razor. There's a dude driving a Razor who literally comes in without his front wheel. It's so freaking classic. He literally drove.
Finished it that way?
Finished it. I don't know. I don't know the story behind it, but he literally comes across. Jake, we got to get that thing hooked up here, like Joe Rogan's got, where we can pull crap up on a TV here. But he comes across the finish line with 3 wheels. Yeah. You know, so it's total carnage, man. It's total chaos out there. But at the same time, it's like this beautiful experience of man versus machine, man versus man versus the elements, man versus other vehicles, kind of a thing. There's one point where we got stuck, where there was one sandy, silty road that went up this mountainside. It was literally on the side of the mountain. We came around and we could see straight ahead. There was like 25 trucks just stacked along the side of this hill. And I could see that there was people stuck. And I'm thinking, shit. Because I know that's where we're going. We go down, we're like another 3 or 4 miles. Next thing you know, we come up behind all these trucks and they're along this cliff line. And there was nowhere to go. We were stuck for 40-something minutes just sitting there because there's these Volkswagen Beetles, a line of them, that were stuck in this silty spot that was right up around the corner. And so there's there's nowhere to go. You don't, hey Siri, is there an alternate route here? You know, we're getting out, we're looking around, we're like, dude, could we go this way? Could we go this way? I'm thinking about like just jumping off the trail and trying to drive up and over. Oh, there's Siri answering. Try to drive up and over, and my co-driver's like, dude, there's no way, man. Like, there's cactus, there's might be freaking silt beds up over this mountain. So there's just so many variables that you have no control over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Which makes it fun.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what, like, you know, like when you said starting off at the beginning with that adrenaline rush when they're counting down to the number. I mean, and then just the intense driving, which might at times kind of like, you know, lose that adrenaline rush, but then have it each time you come to whatever, some kind of obstacle, whatever's going to hit you in the face, whether it be a rock or a mountain or a blown out tire or a drive line, whatever the case is. I mean, then all of a sudden you're like, shit, we got to get this stuff changed out, get back on the road. And I'm sure that's... We had a brand new fuel cell, and we guesstimated how far we'd get on our fuel. And we calculated right. But what you can't take into account is how you're driving and the terrain. And so we figured that we would get a certain distance on our fuel cell, on our tank. And we were driving so fast. It's really funny. It's been part of the video Jake did. We were planning on topping off our fuel tank, kind of keeping a full level as often as we could versus like running it basically empty and then filling up and then running it empty and filling up. We're kind of picked it out to where we just have all of these spots every 30, 40 miles because we figured we were only going to get about 75, 80 miles max on a tank of gas. And so the first spot was at mile 30, and I was hauling ass, and I made it through almost 15 minutes faster than the team could get there. So they're at the starting line with us, and as soon as we left, they're like, okay, he's got 45 minutes till he gets here, and however long we ended up beating him through there. So we're driving through the pits like there's no team there. I'm like, fuck it, we just keep going. Well, it's a bad mistake because we ended up running out of fuel. And what's really funny is we're at mile 68, we come around this corner, and the truck keeps like bogging down. I have to downshift and get out high RPMs to keep us moving forward. Finally runs out of fuel. And they have this device that's in your truck. It's called Stella, and it like notifies you when there's danger, or if you're going through a speed zone, it tells you to slow down. And it notified there's danger as we're coming around this corner. Well, he's like checking all that, and I'm trying to keep the truck moving because I'm like, dude, we're running out of fucking gas. Radio the guys, get them out here. I know we've got like 15 miles till we hit the freeway, till we hit where they are. Mm-hmm. And dude, these aren't like 15 dirt road miles like you're driving up AF Canyon. This is like 15 gnarly ass hill. Like a regular truck probably couldn't get to us. So I'm like, one of us is hiking in to get a freaking gallon of gas or whatever. So the alarm goes off. We come around this corner, and I see the bottom of a trophy truck. And it had flown off the course and flipped over and crashed in the weeds. And so that was the alarm. I didn't know if there was anybody in there or not. It was just all, there's no such thing as coincidence. It all happened for a reason, right? We come around the corner, and I don't see anybody moving. I don't know if this just happened or if he's been sitting there or whatever. So there's kind of two thoughts and two theories when you're racing. You pass a guy whose truck's broken down, he gives you the thumbs up, you just keep going, right? I mean, you're not Mother Teresa, you're not there to help every single guy and whatever. It's racing. Like,
as long as you guys are all right, we just keep bombing. Well, there's nobody there. So we pulled over and we end up running out of gas as we're pulling over. Like there's nothing in there. So we're kind of looking at this truck and there's nobody moving. We can see there's nobody in the cab. We're out of fuel. So I'm telling DJ, radio, it's not working. We're in a dead spot. We're in the middle of freaking nowhere. And I kid you not, 50, it's not even 50 yards where we ran out of fuel. And so I'm like, DJ, let's go see if they have any fuel. Nobody carries extra fuel. You don't have like an extra tank on, like you would on your Razor or something like that. He's like, dude, they're not gonna have any gas. And the way these fuel cells are built, they're not built to be able to just like siphon gas out of it. They're built to withstand a 100-mile-an-hour rollover where it rolls like 10 times and doesn't explode. Like they're built to be not to be fucked with. You know what I'm saying? So we go down and we look at it, and it's this really, really weird fuel cell that is kind of one of a kind. It's not like any other fuel cell that's on really any other trucks. And DJ like puts his head down there, sticks a stick in this thing, and all of a sudden fuel starts pouring out. I'm like, dude, we got gas. Let's do this. He's like, holy shit, we have gas. And so I ran back to our truck, and we had hydration was a big thing this race because it was supposed to be so hot. So we had all of our canisters of Gatorade and our electrolytes. And so I grabbed like 4 of them and I run down, I hand to him. I'm like, chug these. And we're go. We're chugging this Gatorades. And we couldn't drink them fast enough because like you start getting sick.
Yeah.
So I just dump them all out. And so we spent probably 30 minutes with him underneath this truck, like jerry-rigging fuel out of the side of it, filling up our water jugs. And I'd run them up there and I'd dump them in our truck. And I was sweating my ass off. We're just running back, forth. We're like, start the truck. We're like, dude, we got it. Let's go. So no joke. We get in our truck, we get our harnesses on, and I look up and I see this guy walking up over the road. And mind you, we're in the middle of nowhere. Like, this isn't, hey, he just ran down to 7-Eleven to call somebody, right?
Yeah.
And we pull up and he walks up to us. I'm like, hey, man, you all right? And he's like, that was his truck. And so he had flipped over like an hour before us and he couldn't get his sat phone to work. So he had to walk a couple miles to get his sat phone to work. He was walking back to his truck because his team was going to come help him. I said, dude, really sucks that you flipped over. I said, but thank you, man. I said, what's your name? I got his info. I said, I owe you a case of beer. And he's like, for what? And I said, we just borrowed like 3 or 4 gallons of gas out of your truck. And he's like, are you serious? He kind of got mad at first, like bugged that we took fuel out of his truck. I was like, you weren't here, dude. We had no clue where you were, and we just ran out of fuel literally right next to you. And then he kind of got it, and he's like, dude, no sweat, man. Good for you guys. Like, here's my name, whatever. And we wrote down his truck number, and I'm like, we need to send that guy a case of beer. So it was funny because we couldn't have run out of fuel in a better spot than like right there. You know what I mean? So it's a trip, man. I mean, it's a total trip with everything that goes on. It's so much fun.
And what did you say the total was from takeoff to finish?
It was 515 miles.
An hour-wise?
It took us 50 something, right under. There's a 20-hour cutoff, and we were literally minutes from the cutoff. Minutes. We knew it. We came down into the wash, which is a couple miles long, and then you come up into the city. And when we came into the wash, DJ's like, we have 4 minutes before we hit 20 hours, and it was just I did not want to not finish this race because of time. But we literally made it with a few minutes to spare. So it was crazy. Yeah,
no, that's awesome.
So dude, talk to us about Justin was like, I've got this badass friend. He's a bodybuilder. You know Sam Jolly?
I've actually never met Sam.
You never met Sam?
No.
I know Sam, and he's like, he's in a wheelchair. I'm like, oh, I know Sam. And he's like, no, it's not Sam. He's somebody totally different. I'm like, sweet. And he's like, he's badass. You got to meet with him. You got to talk to him. You got to put him on the podcast, the whole thing. So I was super stoked. Like, obviously, Facebook stalked you and the whole thing. And you just did a bodybuilding show.
Yeah, I did it this weekend.
Just this last weekend, right?
Yeah.
Dude.
Which was cool, being in my class. So, I mean, it was my actually first bodybuilding show, but I was the only person in the wheelchair division. So, automatically.
So you won.
I won, yeah. Took first, got my trophy. But the cool part is by doing that, I qualify for nationals. So the goal is we're going to sign up for another show in December in LA and kind of keep going with it and see where it goes to for the foundation and other things. I mean, and really, I'll show you a couple of pictures.
Well, tell us your story too, man, because it's cool. Like Justin's told me a couple of things about you and about what you're doing and some of the medical research and the different things like that you're kind of you're groundbreaking some shit. Like you're doing some stuff that nobody's really done before, and and are really like pioneering some new things, right?
Yeah.
Like,
So
what's your story?
Well, okay. So in 2010, I was in a car accident, got paralyzed, and then with my kind of injury, because everyone has a different spinal cord injury, but I'm never going to be able to walk again because I'm complete, and so I've had like no sensation or I've had any progress as far as getting movement back, and I was actually accepted to be a part of a spinal cord research that was going on in Louisville. I went down to it, and so I've been surgically implanted. I was the 4th person in the world to go through it, and so there's only a few of us. But I have a stimulator that's on my spinal cord, and when I turn it on, I can stand up, I can move my legs, my toes, my ankles, but when I shut it off, I lose everything. And that's always fun. I was telling Jake earlier, he's like, wait, tell me that? I'm like, yeah, I have a remote literally that hold up next to my side, and I can turn myself on. And I tell him, like, how many guys do you know that can turn themselves on? So that's cool by itself, but turns it on, and then I can stand up, I can move my legs, but for the most part, it's a better way to tell people that it's improving my life. It stops atrophy. It stops, it helps my muscle mass, the bone density, blood flow. So basically, I'm staying in the best shape possible. So when a cure does come out for spinal cord injuries, that's the best results I'll have is by staying ready for it. And so that's kind of what I do. Is I try to give that message out to the world, letting them know that there is things happening for people who are in wheelchairs, that there's ways, it's not I'm not walking again or nothing like that, but, at least now there's a point where you can stay healthy as technology continues to grow. So,
Dude, that's incredible. I know Sam and have watched his journey. Like one of the most, before I was introduced to you, like watching Sam, his videos at the gym and stuff like that, like it changed my perspective in a lot of ways. I'm grateful for my health. Just beyond, I could imagine like losing my sight or my arms or something like this, or just, we take a lot of these things for granted. I watched Sam work out and work his legs out. He'd get in like the quad machines or anything like that, and it's literally like moving like no weight. It's just the bar there, and it's moving inches, and you just like some of the most motivating shit ever. Like I watch his videos and I'm like get emotional. I'm like, geez, dude, fuck, stop posting these videos, Yeah. But to see you doing that, it's like, why? It's I love to know the why, simply because we live in a day and age where there's a lot of people that they feel sorry for themselves. There's a lot of people that are really they're just victims. People with legs, people that function, that can walk, that can talk, that can see, that can hear, that can that can do everything like your normal body, right? That just walk around freaking butt sore. You're in a wheelchair, your legs are paralyzed, and you're doing bodybuilding competitions.
Yeah, well, and you said, right, I've actually seen it myself. I've seen people who are able-bodied and get around, but they're more paralyzed than I am, And it's like you said, but it's more of a mindset. It's people feel bad for themselves. But I believe everyone kind of has those kind of adversities in your life. I've heard people tell me their stories. Like a guy I know was telling me that, he lost his son and daughter, and his son was 12 and his daughter was 16. And when he says that, it's like, I think about it. It's like I would much rather be paralyzed than have that in my life.
Lose a child.
So there's things that can be a lot worse, but physically losing the ability to move and walk and like all the things that I've lost, this definitely has given me a bigger appreciation for my life and the world. And sometimes it takes something like this to happen before you get that. And it's unfortunately, that's the way it is. But that's another reason why I want to give people that reason to stop feeling sorry for yourself when you go through tough shit in your life, because it's going to happen, and it's going to happen every day, whether it's a big, life-changing event like a wheelchair, or like you said, a death of a son. People lose their houses. People, their car blows up. Wives cheat on them, men cheat on their wives, whatever the case may be. But that's adversity, and you got to deal with it. You can't sit there and feel sorry. Then that's when people get in depression. They feel bad for themselves.
Yeah.
What do you really go to? It's like, I feel bad. Like, I don't sit there and say that I don't wake up in the morning. I'm not happy every day. Of course I'm pissed off. I hate my life sometimes. It's hard. It's hard being in a wheelchair, and this is not the way that I visioned my life and want to take it, but I can't change anything about how I got here. So it's like making that attitude adjustment, making those life changes to to go on and, you know, I did that bodybuilding show and yeah, everyone's like, that's so inspiring. But, you know, I also did it for myself. It's like, that was something I wanted to do because the only difference is it's like taking those small steps of making your first goal. And for me, that was signing up to the gym, working out. And then all of a sudden I met Justin. You know, you find trainers, you kind of keep going, which lead to more opportunities. And that's kind of where it all led for me.
Did you always feel that way?
No, like when I mean since I got paralyzed?
Yeah.
No. I mean, I went through a time of depression actually where for about the first year was the hardest, where like I was embarrassed, and that's everything, you know, I was embarrassed of myself. I was embarrassed of like being in a wheelchair. And then, you know, with spinal cord injuries, like I don't have full control of like my bowel and bladder. Like I've been out with my buddies and stuff and I've actually had an accident. I mean, and when you have an accident at the age of 27, at the time I was 27 years old, like
yeah,
that, you know, that makes me say, you know what, screw that. I'm not going to go out. It's easier to stay at home and feel bad for yourself. So you go through all these like emotions, and unfortunately people don't come out of that. You know, people stay in those, you know, poor me spots. And sometimes it's like, you know, I don't want to say it's understandable, but it's like, it's hard. It's really hard, but it also has a big effect on the people you surround yourself with. I mean, because there's also those people that will, you know, talk about a negative lifestyle with you or don't want to help you drive. But, you know, also people want someone in their life who's going to do everything for them. And that's something I had to do for myself. Like I have to, no one's going to make me walk again if I don't put that effort in, if I don't work out, if I don't go to the gym, you know, like if I want to do really anything, it's all about yourself. Just like you said, those Baja races, you know, you have those team around you, the people that are meeting you at the pits and doing all that. But if you guys aren't there sucking gas out of some guy's truck, or if you're not out there, you know.
Yeah, you got to get in the driver's seat. I mean,
exactly.
You got to go.
But, you know, no one's self-made. No one can sit there and do everything on your own. So it's really all about yourself on how much effort you put in. But the people you surround yourself with is a big deal.
Dude, I agree with that 100%. I can only imagine, you know, my biggest fear is something happening to my kids. You know, I pray that obviously nothing ever does, but my fear, when people ask me, you know, what's your biggest fear? Obviously something happening to them, but my greatest, the thing that I fear the most is laying on my deathbed, which chances are I'm never going to be on my deathbed. I'll be like flying off a cliff in my truck or some crazy shit like that. It'll be like slow motion, like, oh shit. You know what I mean? But like laying on my deathbed, realizing that, you know, God put ideas in here, God, the universe, whatever anybody believes, up here, and puts passion in my soul, and I squandered it. I didn't do anything with it because I was worried about what you thought or he thought or she thought or social media thought or Instagram thought or Facebook thought or Twitter thought. Like that's my greatest fear, you know, because I wake up every single day, you wake up every single day, we have opportunities, and life throws at us financial challenges, physical challenges, emotional challenges, marriage challenges, all kinds of different shit. It's fascinating to me to see how people overcome that. Like I'm truly like a fiend for that kind of information, that wisdom, and that knowledge, and to surround myself with those kind of people, because more times than not, people, woe is me, pity party, this, that, and the other. There's still people today that talk to me about, dude, I got my ass handed to me when the market crashed. I'm like, yes, so did everybody else. Dude, that was 9 years ago, bro. Yeah. Like that was 9 years ago when the market crashed. Like, what are you doing? Feel sorry for yourself, cool, pity party, get back up and go, man. Yeah. You know? What was it? Like what was it after your accident? Like what was it like being in that spot?
Well, you know, it's like, it's so depressing because it's like you said, you know, 9 years ago how that was. Mine was 7 years ago. But when you work so hard, for me, like, it's relearning how to do things. I mean, getting dressed for me was a challenge. Like, I mean, it doesn't sound like a big deal, but when you're paralyzed and your legs don't move and you got to figure out how to get dressed and, you know, like getting into the car, driving again, because I drive with my hands now. Mm-hmm. I mean, so relearning how to things that used to be something I took for granted, that was a really tough thing for myself, is just giving, like saying, you know what, now I have to start down here again. And it's the same way with everything else I do today. Like everyone's trying to make progress, and when things kind of go backwards, that's the easiest thing at that time is giving up, or, you know, like you said, just it's
easy to give up, man.
Yeah, and feel sorry for yourself and complain about it. It's like,
I got dealt a shitty hand. You guys don't even know. I talk to guys all the time with lions, not sheep, and it's the same thing, dude. We all think we're an island. Like, we think nobody knows. I hear from guys all the time, dude, you don't understand how bad my divorce really was, or how crazy she really was, or I'm like, no, dude, I do. And you're not an island. Like, you're not the only dude that has emotions, that has feelings, that's thought about killing himself, that's dealing with emotional struggles and all this other stuff. You're not the only dude. And we get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I've found that just the idea and the notion, like, some of the greatest experiences that I've ever learned have come in the darkest periods of time.
Yeah.
Like my biggest lessons have come during the darkest, shittiest, most demoralizing times of my life. As you look back, you're like, oh, okay. You know, one of my favorite quotes is, you are who you are today because the choices and decisions that you made yesterday. And a lot of times a lot of stuff happens to us. How we deal with that, that's a choice. It's a decision. Who you are today. I mean, I can only fathom what it'd be like being up on that stage in a wheelchair, like, just knowing that you could be home, laying on the couch, feeling sorry, or you're in front of thousands of people freaking like, you're still like super tan. I was like, how are you so tan? I'm like, oh shit, you had like that dark ass spray tan where it turns you into a completely different human being. But what's that like, man? What's that like knowing that you've overcome such a huge thing?
And for me, actually, that was motivation. Like, the whole way as you're, you know, like, because doing the bodybuilding, I mean, like, it's a lot of work. I mean, and I wanted to put that effort in, but when I went through that on stage, people cheering for you, and along the way, then all of a sudden it's kind of like probably crossing the finish line for you. Mm-hmm. And I want to do another one. You know, you want to do that, but people are proud of you, and people are like, man, that is so awesome that you've done that. And because getting on stage when you have your own certain goals, like, I was down to 5% body fat.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I just did so much. I mean, and with Justin, like, when we first started off, like, the whole dieting thing, which is important just for someone in a wheelchair, but if you want to do one of these bodybuilding shows, it's like, I mean, to stick to these diets, it's like discipline. But it also teaches you things along the way of, you know, the simplest things that I didn't even realize I was learning until after you complete one. And then all of a sudden there's so much more you want to do and take it to the next level. And it's kind of a learning process, like you said, but it's really rewarding being on that stage and getting that done. And then actually, like, when you see, you know, you see yourself in the mirror every day, and I'm like, man, I feel like I'm not doing good. But then when these pictures and stuff all came out and you actually get to see it from the other side, I'm like,
yeah, we'll post a bunch of your pictures here on the podcast.
That was the one. I don't know if
I saw that, dude. It's so freaking rad.
Did you slide to that one? And the other thing I said, be proud of yourself, was,
dude.
Yeah, that was the one. I'm saying
that's so fucking epic, dude.
That's because, like, so those are the two pictures I've got so far.
That's so badass.
But I thought, you know, with that picture is,
Jay, let me see that.
It was like, you know, be proud of who you are, like how hard I've worked to get here. But that's with anybody else. I think that's what that picture to me shows. It tells that I'm in a wheelchair, yeah, and I've had adversity and I've had struggles, but for me, where I'm at right now, I'm happy. And I'm not, that's not my...
Isn't that awesome? Isn't that cool?
That's dope. Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. But, like, it's like, that's not my end result. And I think that goes with anybody as everyone's going through their life. I mean, like you said, I mean, if you have your race truck out there and, like, you've done this, and like you said, you came in, what you said, second to last?
I think it was second to last or third to last.
Yeah, last person to finish. Last person
to go across the finish line.
Right, but that's so badass.
Everybody else was broken down in the middle of the desert.
I mean, and so that right there is like, you know, people like you said, oh, I can't believe you did that. You say, no, man, I'm so proud that I accomplished this. And that's how I am. Like, I'm so proud of where I'm at with my life as far as being paralyzed, the things that I said I couldn't do. And when people say you can't and all these kind of things, it's like, you know, what we were just saying, it's the choices you make about things, and then also rewarding yourself on what you've done. I mean, because that's what gives you that drive again. It's like, you know what, I am a badass. You have to have that inside you.
You're probably a lot like me, where when people say you can't, like, I mean, there's something inside of me that's like, dude, watch. Like the old, like, hold my beer, watch this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, the people that say you can't, or the people that knock you or whatever, so many people message me and like, dude, how do you deal with, I just deal with haters. Like people just talk shit. Cool, whatever. To me, it's nothing. It means nothing. Like I've moved into this concept, which is probably where you've gone to in this, where you realize like life is so much bigger. Like there's so much more to life than just like some asshole's comments on Facebook or somebody being like, oh dude, your legs or this or that or the other. Like when you stop and you step back and you've been part of that journey, like you've gone down that path, man. Like when you go that far down, and I'm not talking just down, but when you go down that rabbit hole of darkness, like when you go down that rabbit hole of where I can only fathom like you went after the accident, like, and you find a way to come back, you find a way to bounce back, you find a way to build yourself, you find a way to overcome. Like you said, nobody's doing it for you, but you do that. Like everything just seems kind of more insignificant to me. Like,
for sure.
Two ways. There's more significance to life. There's more excitement. There's more motivation. Like I playing football with my kids is way different today than it was 10 years ago. Business is different, friendships, relationships. But then there's so much stuff that just doesn't fucking matter. Where I'm like, I don't really give a shit about these comments on this virtual thing with this plastic phone that from who the fuck knows where. Like my life is so much bigger. Like I've been so much further. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it's spot on. I can totally relate to that because I think about my own life before my accident. Not saying I wasn't a bad person and I did a lot of great things, but you are right. I think my image was really, I did a lot of things that I focused on in my life. It's how people are around me also view the way I'm doing things. Because I want to be this person who's, accepted by everyone, I guess, or you want to be that, I do things to impress other people or like to make sure I have this good, I want people to view me
you cared about what people thought.
Right, for sure. And then, when I came into a wheelchair, it's like you were saying, I don't have anybody. I wake up in the morning, and people can sit there and say, I feel bad for you because I really hope you walk again, and to have that sympathy, that means a lot when someone's like, well, we really do hope you walk again. But that's all it means because it doesn't mean shit to them because I'm the one that lives like this. I go home in my wheelchair. I live like this. And so when you kind of live that life of being your own person, because no one's going to, I have the people saying that they're here for me and they, they hope all this kind of stuff they always say. I hope this, I hope that.
Yeah,
well, hope is a shitty word to me. I don't like the word. I mean, hope.
Dude,
hope
when people say, I hope this happens or I hope that, I'm like, fuck that, dude.
Yeah.
Like, take your hope and shove it up your ass, man, because the only way shit's going to happen is if you fucking make it happen, if you actually do it.
And I'm the only person that can do that. So I always actually tell people that hope is I don't believe in hope because I believe in faith. Mm-hmm. And when I tell them faith, I don't say like church. I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about faith, believing in yourself. Because if you want to be that person who crosses the finish line, you want to be that person to walk again, the only person that's going to do that yourself. And that's how I feel about everything that I do. And so, like you just said, I mean, that picture I just showed you and doing the bodybuilding, I did that and I really did appreciate all the people cheering for me, saying it was inspiring. But deep down inside, like, I did that because I put that work in and I was proud of myself. And I'm still proud of where I want to go next.
You look at those pictures and for like real talk, it gives you some swagger. Like it's interesting because a lot of people look at successful people and they think they're arrogant or they're this or this. What you're talking about, like having those pictures, crossing that finish line, I mean, it gives you some swagger. It gives you some mojo. Like you feel you have to have that edge. You have to have that, what you're talking about, that confidence to be like, no, I did this.
Yeah. That's the thing.
Let me see those. Really pull those up. I will show everybody here. Keep going.
That's the thing I believe about life is you were just saying.
This is my man Dustin right here in the wheelchair. Look at this one, ladies. Let me get you with this one. Can you see that?
Yeah. So the thing about that though is the accomplishments. Like I think that's huge about everything else. Like even wherever you want to be in your life. Like my goal is, of course, I want to walk again. I want my life back in a wheelchair. But in order to reach your ultimate goal in your life where you're trying to get to, you have to set these little ones. And the first one for me was, going to physical therapy, which led to, learning how to get dressed in my wheelchair, which learned how to start living on my own, driving by myself. And that over a 7-year period, next thing you know, I'm working out with Justin, who's, this bodybuilder, and he's trained me. He's introduced me to people he knows, and, asked me to do a bodybuilding show, and I accomplished another goal, which is all these goals like that will lead me to reach my goal I want to be, like you said, or I can choose the other route and wait for a cure to come and sit at home and do nothing.
Dude, if people understood what you're saying right now, if people truly understood how to win, like how to be successful, how to hit your goals. I talk about this all the time. People want to eat, they try and eat the whole elephant like one bite at a time. And we look at it, and the elephant's the goal. Like the goal is to eat the entire elephant, right? That's the level of success. That's the definition, whatever you want to call it. And people will spend days and weeks and months and years like trying to fit this elephant into their mouth and like trying to eat the whole thing. Like I gotta have the success and the things, and to get to this goal, this finish line, if you will, like right now. And what you just said is literally the key. It's the ticket. So few people understand what you just said as being the recipe, which is little things every single day. I talk about success swinging singles. The guys in Cooperstown, the very best baseball players to walk this earth to ever play, were the dudes that hit more base hits than tried to swing for the fences and save and win the game every single time. Like taking your little knife and fork every single day and just taking a bite and taking a bite and taking a bite and taking a bite. A year from now, 2 years from now, while these people are still trying to fit the entire elephant in their mouth, I've already eaten it. Mm-hmm. You've already eaten it.
Yeah, for sure. And then it's also, I think, as you're going along these routes too, like it's so funny I just think about my bodybuilding competition I just did. So then there's times where I'm working out, I'm trying really hard. Well, then I have a shoulder injury or something happens. So then I can't get out and I can't even do this. And so it kind of puts you a setback in your life. So maybe it's, you got to some raw meat on that elephant or whatever you want to call it. But it's so true. It's like people are, they want to be the best and win everything, but they don't want to take the small steps to get there. I mean, of course it is. That's how it is with everything. I mean, do you think there's setbacks? Do you think that the shoulder injury is a setback? A setback or a learning experience? I don't know. Yeah. I mean, in a way, since I live off of my arms, yeah, because I hurt my shoulder, and when I transfer, I mean, I have to use my arms. It's not even a choice. So my shoulder was hurting, but then also in the gym where I wanted to keep bulking up and keep leaning out, I couldn't work my shoulders and I couldn't do anything. So to me, it was like a setback. It was, I couldn't do the things that I needed to get done every day. I mean, literally just driving in and out of the car, I have to pull myself in the car, out of the car. I mean, I could do it when I had to, but it hurt. Mm-hmm. So I was making less trips. I was doing things that I couldn't get everything done literally just because of my health. Right. So it was something that was something I was struggling with. I mean,
it's interesting because I have stopped many times over the last year, and started to look at that differently. Like in the midst of it, we look at it like, dude, why does this keep happening? And problems and things and da-da-da-da. And I'm finding myself more and more getting into those like midst of darknesses, if you will, setbacks, problems, issues, whatever. And I'm finding that they're becoming not necessarily easier, but I'm understanding them more. Like there's more consciousness around the idea, like there's a purpose of this, there's a purpose for this. Probably like you didn't stop working out. You adapted to something different. Yeah. Or you did something different. And then you learned, if this happens, then I have the option and the opportunity to do this. And you become almost like this adaptive creature to where, oh, this setback or this happened or that happened or whatever. And at the end of the day, you start looking at it a little differently, saying, what am I supposed to learn from this? You know what I mean? Yeah. You initially start looking at it like, dude, this sucks, this is whatever. And then I think we got our phone falling over here. Then you go into a mode of saying, what am I supposed to learn?
Yeah, and then that's just like when you were saying to me earlier about like you've learned your biggest lessons in your darkest holes, in your worst situations. And it does take time. Like you said, my shoulder injury at the time, I'm thinking, wow, this sucks. But I didn't even realize because I had a shoulder injury, it didn't stop me from doing things. It made me do them in a different way. And you learn from it. And you also, you work on different things. And so it doesn't stop you. it is a learning experience. So really, negative things are really positive. You might not see it at the time, but it's something that you'll see in the future, like what you've accomplished. I mean,
Yeah.
And it's so important for people to realize when they're in their darkest times, when things are crappy, that's when sometimes the best things happen. It's just if they take the pathetic way and take their lives or do something so stupid where giving up. I mean, those are not things that it's not
going to get you where you want to go.
No.
What do you do? Like, what do you do when you're in those times?
Well, for me, in my, like when I get depressed and I get sad, I mean, it's more, it's those days happen, sometimes I do, like, I don't wake up and be like, oh man, I got to go and I'm going to do this today. I'm not just like,
No, dude, I have shitty days all the time. People are like, you're always on, you're always like happy and whatever. I'm like, no, dude, there's days that I'm like, bullshit, man. I'm literally going to lay around the house all day long. I do that frequently, actually.
yeah. Well, I will say that, because those days are probably needed for everybody.
Sure.
But for me, when I'm out, when I'm doing things, I don't show that though. That's the worst thing. If I was having a shitty day today, you wouldn't know it because I think that makes you weak. I mean, if you're trying to be positive, if you're trying to be this person, you want to be the top, of your whatever you're trying to be at.
Sure.
When you show any weakness, it cripples you, I believe. That's from me. Because I'm just saying, not saying that I am like that. Do I have my bad days? Yes, but to be that ultimate, to be those badass people, you can't show that. I just think showing weaknesses is a bad thing. And also, there are people who are not as strong as you. When you're doing the things and you're accomplishing the things that you do, people are looking up to you. People want to be that. And so when they see your weakness, it might hurt them too.
I don't know. I disagree in a way, and here's why. I found that after my divorce, like I was so full of shit. Mm-hmm. Like I just bullshitted my way through life. Like, yeah, I'm good, I'm happy, blah, 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 all this other stuff. And what I found is the more honest I was with people, like the better I felt. And I was that guy. I was the alpha male, had the business, 170 employees, crashed and burned, lost millions of dollars, left my marriage, like all of the stereotypical things of like having a midlife crisis, right?
Yeah.
And I bullshitted. I'm good, I'm this, I'm that, I'm strong, I'm this guy, I'm fucking fierce, I can go crush it and slay it. And there were nights where I wanted to kill myself.
Yeah.
And there were times where I was like, I saw zero light, like I saw zero purpose to even existing, where I truly started to believe, like there's one night in particular, which was kind of my turning point, where I've talked about this openly before. It was almost like having the angel and the devil on your shoulder, and I'm laying in my bed and I'm having a conversation with these creatures of why my kids would be better if I left this existence. And then I was trying to have the conversation with myself of why they needed me here. And I was literally, one night in particular was kind of like my darkest night, the darkest hour, whatever you want to call it, like rationalizing with myself that my kids would be better off if I just killed myself, because I'd caused so much carnage, so much craziness. I lost millions of dollars. I left my marriage. Hundreds of my employees were, had to go get different jobs and all this other stuff. And it was like, I've just been this wrecking ball going through life, like just busting everything and crashing everything and burning everything. And that was the hardest night for me. If I could think back to any night, that was really my turning point when I sought out a coach and said, all right, enough's enough, man. Like, and fast forward where I started openly talking about that. Mm-hmm. And one of my very first posts that went viral was actually a post me talking about my weakness, saying in my post, like, I was an asshole in my divorce and my marriage, that last part of my marriage. There was no cheating, there was no infidelity, there were no drugs or anything. I just emotionally checked out. And I talked about how big of a dick I was. And that was my very first post that went viral because it was raw. Like this alpha male, this guy who was like, had all the armor on, I had all the answers, I was the millionaire, young, successful, whatever, finally was like, no, I fucked up. And it was interesting because that was the first thing that went viral. And the more I did that, I didn't do it for likes and shares and comments. In fact, people that don't even know this, but I hated Facebook. I was anti-Facebook. My ex-wife had Facebook before. I didn't know, like, that's the stupidest fucking thing ever. Or now I'm kind of the Facebook guy, right? But sharing that and that journey of me saying I am weak, here's my weakness, here's whatever, it almost makes you more powerful. It makes me more powerful.
Yeah. Well, and here's my question, I guess, when I said that, I mean, I might have come off wrong. When I said, like, your weaknesses, I guess I meant, like, because I think it's important to show, like, I don't want to say that I didn't feel bad for myself or I don't my weakness, how I'm feeling. I guess when you're out there, and I meant, like, my shoulder.
If you're having a bad day, you're not driving around calling everybody an asshole, basically.
Well, that, and
flipping
or like,
people off as you're driving
I just
the
felt
road.
like if I was to say, hey, I have a shoulder injury today,
right.
and then say, like, oh, I can't do this because my shoulder hurts, and I
Sure.
can't do that.
Totally
That's what
get
I
it.
meant, like, the can't.
Yeah,
but, like,
yeah.
showing your weaknesses, because I'm by far, I mean, everyone has weaknesses, and I'm not going to be afraid of what I'm going through or my struggles, because once again, it's kind of like what I'm.
That's who you are.
Yeah, you got to be proud exactly where you're at, and not be afraid to tell people this is, like you were saying, you know, going through your divorce, and are you the right person for your kids and stuff like that? You know, that's where you might have the best answers when people reach out to you and say, hey, listen here,
right,
and help you out through these things. But, like, when I was saying that, I guess I meant, like,
no, I totally know what you're saying.
I just don't want to hear the I can'ts, and I
sure
the negative that way, I guess.
You've probably had a lot of people do that with you, like reach out to you, and people that have gone through physical experiences or you know, become paralyzed. What's that like?
You know, I love it when people reach out to me and want me to I can teach them the way I've had to learn my life, because people in wheelchairs, we all do things differently. I mean, and you wouldn't understand the simplest things from what you can learn, like when I go shopping, because, you know, I can't carry all the groceries. It's hard for me to go in. Like, there's different techniques that we use, and, like, it's just funny, like wheelchair skills. Like, I mean, try pushing a wheelchair through some gravel or sand, or like when you go different kind of terrain, like, you know, at some point I have to have someone help me get through this stuff. And so teaching other people that. But the one part I hate the most is when people call and they want me to do something for them. And I mean, like, something for them is like, how do I get, you know, my strength back? How do I do this? And, you know, I can tell them what they need to do, but so many people want that handout, or they want, like, I mean,
They're going to ask you all the questions and want all the information and not do anything with it.
Yeah, it's really, and it's kind of, like, frustrating when you're like, hey, I'll help you, I'll get you here, I'll go with you, I'll do all these things for you, and then, you know, but they just want the handout, and
sure.
But that's, I think everybody has that same kind of, because I want to, like I said, I want to walk again so bad, like I do, and if there was a way to, someone could just give it to me. I mean,
well, dude, you're on the way.
It.
Like, I want to know about that. Like, tell me about that. The technology that you're using now, and what you, like, that whole chip.
Yeah. So the stimulator.
I want to know about it. That's like fascinating to me. Justin told me that. He's like, dude, he's doing the show, and all of a sudden he, like, pushes the button and he stands up and he's like, everybody fucking lost it. He's like, I was bawling. Everybody was bawling. Like, holy shit.
We didn't get the video back from it yet, but yeah. So at the end of my routine, you know, you do that, your posing routine where you're flexing and stuff, and at the end of my routine, I stood up, and it's really, to me, like, you know, I do that all the time. I stand all the time, but it is emotional for people to see, because it you know, I think it's so difficult for, you know, I always wonder that, though.
Well, just because we just stand up, man. We don't know what it's like. I just stand up. I want to stand up, I just stand up. So to see you, like, struggle with that, to see that be like a big freaking deal, I think it causes us human beings to just be like, holy shit, what would that be like?
Yeah.
It's humbling. I mean, it really is humbling. It makes you, and that's, I think, what's interesting about life. You know, we see that with movies and entertainment, and we read stories, and you're like, oh my gosh, you see these commercials with little kids that are starving to death and whatever, and you kind of hug your kids a little bit more, and it takes these outside influences to kind of wake us up, if you will, or have us appreciate that. I can only imagine, like, that's why people got emotional. Is everybody in that auditorium, for the most part, whether somebody else in a wheelchair, just gets up and walks out and gets in their car, and they see you, like, this bodybuilder struggling to, like, get to your feet, and you do it, and it's just like, holy shit.
Yeah, and that's a good, I hope that's the message that people get from that, is, like, it humbleizes people, because this has really humbled me with my own life and how I was and how I am today. But more, it's like, it gives people that awareness of what's going on. And you want to know more about the spinal cord injury world, is having a stimulator that allows me to turn myself on and move my legs, like I said, it improves my blood flow, the circulation, my bone density. It stops atrophy. But they're working on things all over the world as far as trying to get that spinal cord to heal itself. And there's so many people in wheelchairs, and if that gives them that little bit of glimpse of that belief in themselves that they're going to start working out and they want to get that back, I mean, that's all you want to do, to try and help somebody else out with your own life. I mean, at the end of the day, I want my goal to walk again, but I'm definitely not going to be selfish about it and see, that's not my only mission. I want to be able to have a good effect on other people and help people in their hardest times, because I've been there. I've been to the point where life didn't matter. And when I see people like that, I want to be that drive for them to keep pushing forward. So that's what I get from that. I mean, that's the Dustin Shillcox Foundation it's to improve people's lives in wheelchairs and people who are going through those adversity, the struggles. I mean, and that's what you do, though. You yourself, I mean, you talk to people about, working hard and not feeling sorry for them or sorry for themselves. Because that's the easiest thing to do, though. And I hear
it's so easy. Everybody,
so hard.
I shouldn't say everybody, but so many people do it because it's the simplest way out. It's the simplest lifestyle, or if you will. It's almost a lifestyle. There's so many people that complain about everything.
Yeah.
Everything is somebody else's fault. My finances, my body, my this. McDonald's made me fat. No, they didn't make you eat the cheeseburgers. You kept eating them. The gym, it's so hard and whatever. Now you just didn't want to go. You're broke because you don't know how to freaking budget and spend money properly, or you know what I mean? Like, it's a mentality.
Yeah. Well, and unfortunately, I think that most people don't take life, like obstacles or challenges, seriously until they have something so life-changing.
Traumatic.
Like when you lose your house, when you lose a child, when you get in a wheelchair, when you go blind, then all of a sudden all these things matter. Then all of a sudden, like, man, I wish, because that's how I was. Mm-hmm. I know if I could have knew back then what I know now.
Oh, dude. But what's interesting is a lot of people fade from that. I as you're saying that, I remember, the first thing that comes to my mind is September 11th, 9/11.
Yeah.
Everybody in America was patriotic. September 12th, September 13th. Everybody was flying flags. They were patriotic. They were all for America, 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 America. And then it just kind of dissipates.
Yeah,
we all get back to our lethargic lives and just doing our thing, and we forget that. We forget those images. We forget that feeling. And once a year, we're like, never forget. All right, cool. And then next day you go back to your life and you forget until the next year. I think what's interesting is there's some people that tend to kind of grasp onto that feeling and live it. Like, they don't forget.
Yeah, no, that's what you need.
And they think about that every day, and there's appreciation for that every single day. Like, as I see you pop up on Facebook, as I see Sam pop up on Facebook, every single morning, even without seeing you guys, I get up and I walk. I posted a picture of this the other day, actually, me butt-ass naked on my back deck. And I walk out, and I've got a really pretty view from my deck, and I walk out every single morning. And whether there's snow out there, whether it's freezing cold, whether it's whatever it is, raining, and like my first thing is just giving gratitude because I'm alive. Mm-hmm. Like my fingers work, my legs work, my eyes work, my ears work, like my heart's pumping blood. And I think just having that knowledge and that consciousness of saying, holy shit, like you said earlier, there's somebody didn't wake up today. Yeah. Forget the ailments, forget this, forget wheelchairs, forget the whole thing. Like, there's literally a dude who's 38 years old, my age, a father who just didn't wake up, period. He might have had a heart attack, might have been whatever, but just his ticket was punched, and that was it. And here I am standing on my back deck and truly appreciating and realizing, like, I've been given another day to go do something. It's a gift. I've been given this day. What am I going to do with it? Am I going to feel sorry for myself? Am I going to bitch? Am I going to moan? Or whatever? Or am I going to go try and, like, do something with it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's so hard. That's the exact, vision you want to give to people. And, I can sit there and listen to you. And to me, like, it makes my hair stand up kind of when you think that. It's like, you're right. When you come out, you stand out. I kind of want to get that same process going too, because it does, right? You want to get up every day and be grateful that you're alive and you have this day to go do so many things and you can accomplish. But you know, or you can get up and not even go through that door and just be like,
dude, I gotta
today
go
sucks.
to work. Fuck, man,
Yeah.
this is gonna suck ass. Oh,
You gotta
my
go
kids.
to work, but you got a job.
I
You have
wish
a
my
damn
kids
job.
would just shut up and just go eat their fucking cereal and leave me alone and let me sleep. And it's just like, I have some days like that.
Well, of course.
You know what I mean?
Hell
but
yeah.
like, this thing that we have, this life that we have, it's so amazing, dude. Like, it's so, like, what you're talking about, technology. I want to know more about like technology. Like, I can only imagine how exciting that is for you.
Yeah, you're sitting there waiting, but the waiting game, that's the process. You know, people are waiting for this technology to advance to where we will have a cure, to where we will walk again. But in the waiting process, it is up to you to be doing something every day with your life. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not about waiting for the cure, I guess. It's about being prepared for it, just like every day of life.
So what's that like with like the technology that they have now? I'm fascinated with technology. I'm not only just these cell phones that we have and the electronics and microwaves and TVs and crap like that, but like I'm fascinated with what is happening with the human body, with the anatomy. Like, I'm getting more and more and more into that, into the mind, like neurosciences and stuff like that. I've been studying it a lot, and it's fascinating to me. So tell me about the technology that can take someone who's bound to a wheelchair, paralyzed, and have them walk again. Like, talk about that.
So the problem they're struggling with, like, I've been to actually, since I've had this, since I'm like on groundbreaking research for spinal cord injuries, I've got to go to basically a doctor's, or a research convention where people are talking about what they're working on and how they're trying to make advancements and cures. And the problem with spinal cord injury, so the spinal cord is one part of your body that doesn't heal itself. So when you damage it, that's where it's at. So with the stimulator that I have, it's actually, the stimulator is placed below my brake. So I'm paralyzed right at the nipple line, and the stimulator is placed right down there about my belly button line. And it stimulates the spinal cord below the injury, which, so everything's still good. My legs, everything's still working fine. It's just making that connection.
So what is it? What is it like? How does it work?
I literally have a little.
I know that like physically like that, but like how does it actually make your spine work? If it doesn't heal itself, if you bust it and it can't be fixed by itself, how does it actually technically work?
Yeah, so it's like that stimulator that they actually it's placed on top of the spinal cord, and then when this is turned on, it's just stimulating the spinal cord, and it just must. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but you can watch me turn it on, and I actually can get to a certain voltage where I can start moving my toes. All right, I got it.
Which realistically, without that, I mean, you can't move your legs, you can't move your toes.
No, when it's turned off, I can't do anything. It's completely dead. You turn it on, and all of a sudden, you'll see my muscles actually fire up, and then at a certain voltage, I can start wiggling my toe. Standing, I can extend and stand up, and so what they're working on though is with that, and then putting some kind of drug on your spinal cord to help the messages start connecting or start healing that spinal cord. And I know there's stuff all over, from stem cell to things they're working on. I mean, with animals, here's the problem. They've actually had some really nice success that I've even seen, but animals are dying, and so that kind of puts a halt on
the research.
Yeah, so they got to figure out like what the problem is and stuff like that. But I mean, they're working on it. So the cool thing is like, for me being able to be on and that's as much as you can. There's so much that I don't get to see, but just to know that they're working on that and they're having success rates somewhat. I mean, it's like, it's coming. So that should give people so much drive to, what, I need to get out of bed today. I need to, because,
what if tomorrow is the day that they find that thing,
Yeah.
and I'm sitting around like feeling sorry for myself, and I'm not even on anybody's radar.
Right. Or even
for this radical technology or whatever.
Yeah. Or what if it's 5 years from now and you've waited and you've atrophied and your body's not ready to stand on its own, and you're not, because that's why physical therapy is important. That's why just honestly getting out of bed every day and doing something is better than not like no activity. So
as you're saying that, as you're describing that, like I thought what came into my mind was I just watched Spider-Man with my kids.
Yeah.
And that guy, the bad guy, I don't know what his name was, the scientist or whatever, who put on that freaking thing. And he stands and it's like, and like goes into his spine and his neck and stuff. And then he's got these freaking arms that are going all over the place. Like,
yeah, I remember that. Like, because like it zaps in something to his neck. Basically the same thing. It's just
it literally takes these needles and just shoves them into his spine, and his mind and everything is operating these arms and stuff like that. Like being a fan of science, being a fan of like stuff, I can only imagine what's happening around the world in that regard with being able to make your body work when it doesn't work.
Yeah, well, see, and it's so amazing. Like, you think that your brain runs your fingers and stuff like that and your arms and all that, but actually it goes through your spinal cord, which delivers a message. So the spinal cord, from what I've learned from the doctors and the research, the spinal cord is actually a lot smarter than what people think. I mean, that's what tells your body how to move. I mean, that's exactly why my bladder got affected, my bowels got affected, my sexual function, the ability to sweat, all these things that you don't understand. The reason mine got shut off was because of my spinal cord injury. And it's not that they don't work, because when that thing's turned on, they're back. It's like they're working. It's just getting it to the point where I can control them again. So
will that ever happen? Will they?
Gosh, I hope so.
Or is it just a manual thing? Like,
what's that?
Just being able to actually have it work where it can be neurotransmitted, like you can run it with your brain, run your body with your brain, I guess.
The funny thing is like when I actually go back to the research and they've got new people in there who they're trying to learn more on, but that's the questions that I have. They ask me, will I get the feeling back on my legs? Well, do you have them yet? Like, when you're on the cutting edge of technology, a lot of that kind of stuff, that's just, it's a waiting game. So it's really up to me to keep working. That's why it's such a, it's my responsibility to have this opportunity to be in this research, that I put in 110% effort on not only my own health, but with the stimulator, trying to walk again, because if it's from this, if something does happen, then everybody else who's suffering with a spinal cord injury can get the same results that I've had, So it's really, and it's kind of crazy when I ask the same questions, like, do you think I'll get my, they don't
really know. They're just
no,
like,
they don't know. We have to, well, let us know if something happens.
Dude, there's got to be, like, I was watching, when I have my kids, we love watching movies, and we'll just snuggle at night. And we're watching World War Z, the one with Brad Pitt. I don't know if you saw that one, where it's like the big thing. It turns everybody into zombies, and like the whole world's like falling apart. Great movie. It's a good movie. But there's this little teeny like research facility in the middle of like the Swiss Alps that like no one knows about. It's like this little teeny place, and it's all the mad scientists, and they have cures for like all of the influenza and black pox and chicken pox and all of these typhoid, all these other things. But I just visualize in my mind that there's these mad scientists all over the world that are constantly like testing things and coming up with things and trying new things. I mean, there's 7.5 billion people on this planet, man. There's got to be people right now that have cures for cancer. There's got to be people that have things that would never be approved by the government or FDA approved or whatever, but might be risky. It might be whatever, where people travel to other countries for these experiences and research and tests and stuff like that. But I can only imagine what it's going to be like with how fast technology has moved in the last 5 years alone. Mm-hmm. I can only imagine. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that there'll be technology and things, who knows when, but they will help people walk.
Yeah, I agree. I believe that in order for me to get something like with that happen, you probably will have to go out of the country just because of FDA and stuff like that. But I'm totally willing to do that but I'm always watching for things. I see, some guy here with the, when they take a stem cell from a guy's nose, and I've watched all kinds of different things, but it's also important, I don't think, to jump into something because sometimes it could go in the wrong, Yeah,
it's not proven.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things. I mean, I definitely watch though. I mean, there's so much, and I'm with you. I mean, it almost boggles my mind that they haven't. I'm like, are you kidding me? Don't make me go to school and become a doctor myself. And cure my own injury.
With that, man, we'll take we won't get into the political game and start diving into that thing. But
that's a good idea.
I guarantee you the cure for cancer is out there, man. I guarantee you the cure for so many of these things has already been found. You know what I mean? It has to be. Like, we're so freaking smart, man. We're so technologically advanced But yet at the same time, we're just these creatures of protons and neutrons and whatever the hell our bodies are made up of bones and tissue and blood and water and whatever else. Like, we are simplistic creatures. But man, it's like, it excites me. I get excited by these conversations. Like, I get excited by the ideas and the notions and the movement of technology, the movement, the advancement of things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's motivating. Like, that's when you talk about like getting up and going every single day. Like, I want to figure who wouldn't want to live longer. Oh, dude, fuck that. I wouldn't want to live longer than whatever. Bullshit, man. If I could spend another 10 years or 20 years or 30 years or 50 years on this planet with my kids, playing football, jerking around, having fun, whatever, dude, shoot me up with whatever that stuff is, put it in my brain, put me in the little freaking tank and freeze my ass for a couple minutes and whatever else. I'm all for it. You know what I'm saying? Who wouldn't want to be healthier, live longer, have bigger muscles? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think every single person would, really.
I'm telling you, when I was at that research convention, it was all doctors. Like, there was like 10 doctors from all over the world. And this one guy was telling his stuff about aging. And like, at that convention, I don't know why it's not out yet, because he's actually got the proven stuff. Like, he literally can knock 20 years off people. Like, it is unbelievably.
Really?
Like, it's nuts. Like, I'm like, he's totally like believed in himself.
Like skincare stuff, or
yeah. Well, it's in his whole, like, with his research and his stuff. He says that because like people live, they, you know, an average probably die around like 75, 80 years old, 90. He's saying there's no reason that number shouldn't go to 120, 130.
Really?
He's like, people should be living way past the hundreds with this kind of stuff. He's like, it's just because of the way, like, we've also grown with technology, with food, and with all that your body takes in all this extra, you know, everything that you bring in every day kills you.
Sure.
And he's supposedly, with his research and stuff, he's got a stuff that will kind of, you know,
elongate that. Yeah.
And you know, stop the things that are killing people early on. And it's like, damn, I'm like, I guess I'll take some of that. Yeah,
dude,
some of that.
Well, and you know, this being in the fitness world, I mean, just your diet alone. Like, people go to the store and they see on a label, you know, fat free or sugar free or, you know, low calorie, or this will make you not fat, or make this. I mean, it's all hype. It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
It's really, really simple to be healthy. Eat real food.
Seriously,
like, eat real food. Shit that grows out of your garden that you can pull off and eat, and an animal that's up in the mountains that you can shoot it and actually see where the meat comes from, bring it down, chop it up, put it in your freezer. Like, that's a very, very, very... Cavemen were doing that.
Well, see,
like, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, that's how human beings survived. And it's like, oh, we're way past that. No, dude, we're fat fucking lazy pieces of shit that go into a McDonald's drive-thru and pay 89 cents for a hamburger and think that 89-cent hamburger is somewhat has some nutritional value. It's like eating death. You're like, hey, I want to die earlier. Go to McDonald's, eat a freaking thing. I mean, it's crazy. You know what I'm saying?
That doctor was saying that, man. He was saying all these things. He wasn't bashing anything.
Yeah.
That's why you're dying, though.
I'm not bashing McDonald's because those burgers are tasty.
No,
their chicken nuggets are great. I'm just telling you that they're really fucking bad for you.
That's why you're going to die. And he was saying that. Like, you know, you think about it, 100 years ago, people weren't having Diet Coke, Mountain Dews, and Red Bulls, and friggin' Monsters, and all these energy drinks, and plus the fast food restaurant. That's what's killing people.
Oh, dude, 100%.
And he's saying, you know, you have all this. So he's, you know, finding a way to heal those, and you know, and regardless what people think, that it's not all the, you know, alcohol, all that stuff, it kills your body. Like you said, if you lived off of stuff that grew out of the ground and stuff that you lived off the mountains and you got to see it, you would live longer. Right. It's very much, because just going through this bodybuilding process, and I've been on a strict diet where I'm eating things that you get sick of. I mean, it's miserable, because I wanted to have some. I want some death food.
Sure. It's got our bodies start getting programmed to that, man. That's without, again, getting into politics or the game of evolution or stuff like that, but it's really fascinating. I was thinking about this the other day. I was up, I'm reading this really cool book, and I'm up just journaling, just writing some stuff down, some thoughts down with Lions Not Sheep and the whole thing, and I started like contemplating politics and the game of politics and stuff, and now getting into politics and looking at all of these different levels of engagement of the political spectrum in our personal lives. And if you stop and really look at it, like, why is it that a head of broccoli is like $6, where a cheeseburger is 89 cents. Like, and you start looking at these things and thinking about these things, and you start thinking about the pharmaceutical world and the drug world and the trillions of dollars that are spent on the medical industry and prescription drugs and hospitals and visits and things and all of this other stuff. Like, there's no wonder we're dying younger, man.
Yeah,
I mean, our food is laced with toxic shit that literally, like, is not... it says it right on the label, like, what it is. And
Warning.
anybody that has half of a brain Googles it and looks it up and is like, yeah, that stuff's not healthy. Like, it's not meant for your body. It's not good for your body. But what does it do? It creates some preservatives, so it gives it a little longer shelf life so we can make a bigger profit and so on and so forth. And this was my question. I was like, how is it that, like, our FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, and you know, again, this ties into what we're talking about with you. How is it that that cheeseburger and whatever McDonald's has to go through to get that meat, quote, meat, processed, put into a patty, shipped to any one of the thousands of McDonald's around the country? Because you know that if that's even meat, that shit was killed months and months and months and months and months and months ago. So there's got to be a way to keep that meat fresh and long and whatever, so that we can throw it on a friggin' grill however long down the road. Like, if you stop and start thinking about these things, how is it that that's okay and approved and normal, but yet it's so damn expensive that we have to charge $6 for a head of freaking broccoli at a store?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, we have to have these pesticides and you have to do this and it has to be this and all this other organic things and fees and dues and all this other stuff that these farmers have to pay. It really is a fascinating conversation. We could go off for hours and hours and hours about it, but, like, I envision and suspect that it's very similar to what you're dealing with and you're seeing through, like, the body and the spine and cancer research and things like this. Like, we've been researching cancer forever, years and years and years, longer than you and I have ever been alive. We don't have a cure for that. We don't have something that can help it. We don't have something that can, we've got chemo and whatever. But, like, I can only fathom, as our political system kind of makes a shift and goes more towards actually helping people and getting rid of the bureaucracy and the political bullshit, I can only imagine what kind of stuff is going to open up for you, and, like, different doctors are going to pop up and experiences and things and experiments and stuff that's, like, now available to you that wouldn't otherwise be, because we'd rather have this doctor who contributed to my campaign and gave me a whole bunch of money make millions and millions and millions of dollars, and so we're going to regulate it and make you go to him versus actually talking to some other dude who actually has a cure.
Yeah, and that's a really frustrating process, that whole, the doctors and, like, regulations and stuff, because especially when you have someone who's living with cancer or someone who's paralyzed, and, that always bothers me, is, like, why can it be their choice, on what we can try? Like, I understand I don't want to go out there and do something that's going to kill me.
Sure.
But then I have friends who are paralyzed a lot higher than I am, and they, their life is have obviously a lot more struggles than I do with different challenges. But, after you're in a wheelchair for 10 years, sometimes some people are like, yeah, I'm ready to try this.
Sure.
Who is it they say, we can't do that because it's not good for you? Well,
who's to say it's not good for you?
I'm living this lifestyle. Okay, you don't.
It's the same thing with the cheeseburger.
Yeah.
Who's to say who's the fucking idiot that says that cheeseburger is okay for 89 cents and it's good for you, where we're going to have to charge you $6 for this? Who's the guy that legitimately allows this shit to continue to be produced and put into our bodies? Same kind of thing. It
is, and it's just, and it's so frustrating because, like, there's so much positivity that can come from people who want to improve stuff. But it's...
What's that like for you, knowing that have you faced that? Like, have you faced that kind of a challenge or pushback or resistance from the medical community or the political community on, like, your ability to go see different doctors or be different places or try different things?
I wouldn't say I personally know, but here's the stories I've heard is, and I've seen it, what I saw it was on TED Talks. This guy comes in, I think he's from Switzerland, but he comes in with this, he's got the stimulator in a rat, and same thing I have, but what they're doing is they're injecting drugs into its back with the stimulator on, which, while it's on, it's, like, helping. This rat started walking without the stimulator. Basically, it improved, like, it made the stimulator, or the spinal cord, start connecting and remembering how to work again. So it's like, all right, it's happening there, but, like, they do talk about all the hoops and things they got to go through before they can make it, approved for a human being. It's
Right.
like, well, there's a whole bunch of us out here who are ready to walk again. Like, you have to do things. And but I think it's really frustrating. I actually personally haven't had that experience, like where someone says, no, you can't do that. But I haven't really said, I want to try this.
Sure.
I just look at stuff. But I mean, yeah, it just makes you wonder what the hell's going on. Like, all right. So, and that was years ago when I saw that. I mean, did you guys give up on that? I mean, like,
What's going on with
where
it
are you
now?
at now? Like, it's so, but I don't know. It's kind of frustrating, but at the same time, you just got to sit back and make with what you have in this moment and try and make the best of your life. So,
dude, it sounds like you're optimistic about it though. Like you're kind of like, dude, cool stuff's happening. I mean, just the fact that you're one of 4 that have the system that you have that literally has helped you go from my legs don't work at all to now I can stand up.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's unbelievable.
From what I've seen in like just research and what I see going around and what I've been a part of, and I get like a little bit of the inside scoop, I tell people, get ready because something's coming, man.
Yeah.
But like it's when I say get ready too, like I've been paralyzed now for almost 7 years, and when something does happen, I'm gonna have hell to go through just to get back to walking again. Because you figure I've been sitting for 7 like, so that's why stretching is important. That's why all this stuff. But I'm still. So that's people have to realize that when they find a cure for walking, it's not gonna be like, all right, you're
Plug it in
better.
and you're going.
No,
right.
it's gonna be like then it's gonna be time to go to work. I mean, what I've done, nothing isn't even a piece of work, because then that's where it's really gonna come back to learning how to walk again, getting your strength back. And then remember in that process, you'll probably break a leg, you'll probably blow a knee out. Things are gonna happen where you're like, it's not worth it.
Well, it's very that's hugely indicative of millions and millions and millions of people that are currently overweight right now.
Oh,
that
for
are
sure.
sitting around that are like, oh shit, it's going to be hard. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. I mean, it's just interesting how much it parallels, like what you're talking about, parallels everybody's life.
Yeah.
I mean, people listen to this, they're like, I'm out of shape and this and that, and it's going to be hard. And I'm going to have to start, but getting that, what you said earlier, just learning how to get yourself dressed was like a huge step, and then it moved to this, and then it moved to the physical therapy, and then you didn't just all of a sudden wake up and go, I feel like shit one day, I'm going to go do a bodybuilding competition. You started with something simple.
Yeah.
I mean, people that literally I've talked about this tons on social media. Like, if you're out of shape, you're completely dejected. You're not doing anything. You're not wanting to do anything. If it's hard for you to just walk around your house, you're so obese. Like, imagine what it would be like if you walked to your mailbox and back.
Yeah.
And then the next day you walked like another 10 feet past your mailbox and back. Or if you haven't done push-ups in 20 years and your body is like completely just shut down, like not used to, what would it look like if you did one push-up today? And then you did another push-up tomorrow, and then another push-up the day after that. And then next week you do 2 push-ups. Like, everything has a point. Everything has a starting point.
Yeah.
Whether it's healing my spine, whether it's this, whether it's finding cures, whether it's finally taking my diet under control, my food, my consumption, everything has that starting point of saying, I'm going to do this, and then being committed to it and staying connected to it. And what you talked about earlier, having people around you that will support you, that will push you on the days that you don't want to do certain things and don't want to get, motivated and hyped up and stuff. But the idea and the notion that we just sit around this life and just wait for shit to happen, wait for stuff to be given to us, wait for advances, it's just crazy to me, man.
Yeah. And then, the thing about that I think about is, like, you're right. It's taking those small steps to get started doing that one push-up, walking around the house or whatever. But sometimes people don't have that drive. For me, it was getting dressed and getting my independence back where I could live on my own.
Right.
As a 26-year-old guy. I wanted to be independent. But that's where my drive came from. I had a reason. Like, I want to be normal again. But for most people, when you don't have a must, like mine was, I want to get dressed by myself. I don't want my mom to come in here and help me put my underwear and pants on. So that was a drive, and that kept leading up. And so that's why I was saying earlier that unfortunately it's like you have to have something so life-changing before you'll say, okay, now I'll do something.
Isn't that crazy? Like, knowing where you are now, where I am now, you would think that life would be that.
Yeah. Well, now life
that
is for
drive,
me.
right?
Yeah.
Like to me, that's what it is. Like I wake up every morning and I deal with struggles. I stand on my back deck and I'm like, holy shit, hey, another day, dude. Like, thank you, whatever, God, universe, whatever. Like, wouldn't I? And this is again my thought process and why I'm a lot different than a lot of other people. Why you're a lot different than a lot of other people. You would just think at some point in time that something would click in your brain, or you'd realize like how incredible this existence really is. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We have the ability to experience everything, see whatever we want. Like we get to choose. We get to literally create our own existence. I would think at some point in time that would motivate people, but I guess it doesn't. It's not motivating enough. Like you said, some people have to have a really crazy experience or have a loved one die or have this traumatic experience before it wakes people up. Some people never have that.
No,
some people just coast through this existence, roll over, die, and it's like, that's it. Your ticket's punched. Cool. Good ride. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't think of anything more traumatic than that being my reality. Skating through being like, oh, fuck. Just like people wake up on Monday morning, oh, my God, I don't go to work.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like,
so glad
Monday.
it's Friday. The week's done. Screw this. Now I'm just going to get drunk for the weekend and then do it all again. Like, imagine, like, being 80 and knowing, like, you're ready to die. And you're like, I couldn't even fathom that. Like that scares the shit out of me to think about that experience. Yeah. And having my kids be and like looking at my children and be like, was I a good dad? Did we do some cool shit? Like I want to be at I actually had a really cool experience not too long ago where a man who was very much a father figure to me, I got a message that said that he was days away from death. And he had lived his life and he was basically on all kinds of medicine for his diabetes and his heart, and just his body was shutting down, and he had all this medicine, and the medicine wasn't working, and it was making him sick, and it was just kind of all like this mess of just his body was just starting to shut down, and the medicines they were giving him weren't working, and so he's kind of like, I'm good. Stop the medicine. And they're like, well, if you stop the medicine, you're going to die. And he's like, I'm good. I'm cool. And it was crazy because I went up there, and mentally he's all there. He's just as witty, as sharp, as connected as ever before. And I'm sitting there talking to him, and you could just tell, like, he was that guy. He didn't fuck around. He just lived life. He was like, I don't care if you like me or not. Piss off. I'm going to do what I want to do, live the life I want to live. His kids were alive. His kids were healthy. His kids were good. They, he lived this life that he wanted to live on his terms and his way. And he's kind of like, I'm good. And you knew that he was. It wasn't like this morbid, oh, I'm going to die. And there was not a lot of tears. There was emotion just because of the energy. Because you knew, you're like, shit, man, this guy like literally lived a life. I want to live that kind of life. When my ticket's about to be punched, I'm like, see you guys. That was one fucking hell of a ride. I'm high-fiving, hugging my kids. I'm like, adios, we'll see you on the other side, right? Yeah. Like, that's the kind of life I want to live. And that was this guy. That's where he was.
Well, and that's what you're doing. Like you said, when you get up every morning, you walk out on the deck and you got appreciation for life. That's the kind of lifestyle you have to have.
Like what business does a guy in a wheelchair have doing a bodybuilding competition?
Yeah.
What business does some half-assed entrepreneur guy, whatever, buying a race truck and racing in the desert?
Yeah.
No, we don't have any, but we fucking want it, dude.
Do it, yeah.
You want to do it. Like we said, we realized my ticket could be punched. I want to do this. Like, I'm not going to sit around anymore. I want to live, you know? Yeah. I want to live. I want to do, literally, like, I want to do everything. I literally just filed, and I can say this now because the podcast isn't going to come out for a couple of days. Jake, we won't put this out for another day or two, but I literally just filed my paperwork yesterday to be a congressional candidate.
Oh,
I'm running for Congress.
That's badass.
Not very many people know that. And I can say that now because we're not live or streaming, but we're going to do a big release on it tomorrow. But, like, what business do I have running for Congress?
What business don't you have?
I mean, I look at guys like Reagan, and I'm like, all right, Gipper, I'm in the game, right? Yeah. I mean, but that's my point. Like, what business do I have doing any of this? None. Based off of the worldly conversation, based off of the rules. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Oh, dude, you're paralyzed. Sucks, bro. See ya. You just kind of become a vegetable and sit around for the rest of your life. Yeah. You're like, no, fuck that. I'm going to find ways to do some cool shit. I saw a video of Sam the other day paragliding. They rigged up and did a whole thing, and he's made it this mission. He wants to do it, and they rigged up this whole contraption thing for his wheelchair and stuff. And now he's fucking paragliding. I want to paraglide. I'm like, I got legs that work, and I don't even do that, you know. But like, what business do we have doing anything? None really, based off of what you and I've been taught and programmed and how the world works. But yet, there's guys like you and me and Sam and other people that are like, fuck it, man. I'm going to die one day.
Well, you know,
and
it's and it's what you said. I mean, all that comes down to basically like when you want to do something, if you have any fear or what other people are going to say or do, or like if you don't believe in yourself, then you're never going to make it. Like if you got to have in your heart, like that's what you want to do. You want to run for something. You want to do whatever your objective is.
How do you do that? Like what's your opinion? Because I don't live without fear. I got tons of fear. I have tons of reservations. I walked into that office yesterday and filed my paperwork, and all of this stuff was running through my head of like all of my past and things, and people were going to come up, and it was going to get dirty, and people were going to judge me, and people were going to bring up all of this stuff that I didn't want to talk about, which is all public. But like, I had all kinds of stuff. But the bigger picture for me was like, there's never going to be a perfect time. No. I'll never have enough money. I'll never be in enough place. There'll never be like that click in your mind where it's like, it's the perfect day to run for freaking Congress. It's the perfect day to jump out of an airplane. It's the perfect day, whatever. Like you're never going to have that perfect time. It will never show up. My watch will never have the perfect time on it. So it's kind of like, when am I going to make that leap? When am I going to do it? And I was nervous as shit going up there, man. My campaign manager was there. Jake was there video, and my kids were with me. I definitely had fear. I definitely had nerves.
I would say fear and to be scared. It would be.
It's almost It's almost a requirement.
Yeah, just like you said. But it's no different than being at the front at that start. You said it earlier at the starting line at that goat when they're counting down.
So people that are listening to this, what would you tell them? Like, what would you say to somebody that was like, yeah, cool, man. It's easy for you because yeah, whatever. And Sean, it's easy for you. And what would you say to somebody like? What's the ticket to taking that first bite of the elephant, or like going back to the basics of what you talked about, just going to physical therapy?
Yeah, for me, it would be like telling the listeners or anybody else that hears this is what you want in your life, what you're trying to get to. You have those ultimate goals, whether it's running for Congress, whether it's wanting to race a truck or walk again. Yeah. Whatever you're trying to be at, it's making those goals at the beginning. First off, going it, it's going to be scary. You're going to have setbacks, and everyone has your list. You got to remember that everyone's going to have the same story where it's harder for somebody else. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Everyone has a different situation. Everyone's got their own challenges, but you're going to have to own your own moment. You have to own this chance, and if you want it, you have to go for it. Don't worry about what other people think. You can't worry about the fear that you might not make it, or the fear of failing, because you're going to have your setbacks, you're going to have your struggles, you're going to have every reason why that you want to give up. But that's what makes reaching your goals so rewarding. When you do stuff that people don't think is possible, and that really goes out to everybody else out there. It's like,
I think fear is part of it. Fear is kind of funny.
Fear is a good thing. I mean, fear is
it's a great thing, man. I mean, I watched a video of Mike Tyson the other day. One of the most feared legendary boxers ever. I mean, the dude was like a maniac. Back in his prime, Could you imagine trying to fight Mike Tyson? Could you imagine being a boxer, be like, yeah, I'll take that heavyweight bout? You're out of your fucking mind. Yeah. That dude's he's going to decapitate you with an uppercut. Like, he's going to crush your soul and then your brain. And the video was amazing. He's sitting there talking about how he would become like violently ill. He would throw up in his dressing room. He would literally get so sick because he was so terrified. And how walking out, he was terrified, literally terrified of the fight. And how like he got closer and closer and closer, and then stepping into the ring, everything kind of shut off and he went into that insane mode. But that was fascinating to me to think that a guy at his caliber, his level, and the best in the world, heavyweight champ, literally became violently ill, was like so scared, had so much fear that he would get sick before his fights. And it just kind of got me to thinking like, fear, those feelings, I find that when I'm doing things that scare me, those are the right things to be doing. Like if it scares you, it's kind of one of the indicators, one of the ways to know if you're doing the right thing. If you're quitting your job and starting your own business, if you're deciding to show up at the gym. There's so many people I hear from that are like, I'm overweight and I have a complex and I'm scared to go to the gym because I feel inferior, whatever. Like I have fear going to the gym because I'm fat and they're not, kind of a thing. The fear of having that conversation with your loved one, you know what I mean? Sharing with them your desires and your passions and your things, like all these things bring forth fear. That's fucking good.
Yeah.
That's a good feeling because you know you're like onto something. Like when I went in yesterday to that office, I was like, oh shit. My mind was, and when I walked out, dude, I was like, I could have literally lifted the entire freaking state capitol. I'm like, let's do this shit. Like my confidence went through the freaking roof. I was like, it just shifted something in my brain.
You know, it's no different than what you said. It's like the fear. You're thrown up at the beginning. You're scared. You're nervous. You're walking to the line, and then all of a sudden you go up in the Capitol. You sign those papers. You're in the ring. And
like, game on.
Now it's the fight. You know, and then when you become part of Congress and you're there, you've won your first battle. You know, but then all of a sudden
there's a whole nother level of fear.
You got to keep going, man. It's like the next fight, and it's like so. It is so amazing just the way you can like put that into terms on any way, and it's just like that boxing with you. It's like. But everyone has that, you know, it's just seeing it like that.
Well, it's like what you said, standing up, getting onto that stage, rolling out there for your first bodybuilding competition.
Yeah.
Like where you said, you're like, now I want more. I want to do it again.
Yeah.
And I want to go bigger and I want to go deeper and I want to go whatever. There's a whole nother level of fear to that. There's a whole nother level of trepidation. Now that you've like accomplished that one thing, to take it to the next level, it's a whole nother level of fear. It's a whole, like you're never not going to not be afraid. You're literally always going to have, as you're moving forward into uncharted territory, into new experiences, into a new world, into uncertain things that you've never done before, you're going to be afraid. There will be fear there with every fucking thing you do.
Yeah.
With my kids growing up, my daughter, she's 14, I was 15 and 16, and all of a sudden, shit, I'm scared. But it's like, I love it.
Yeah.
I walk into that experience every single day. I walk into a new business deal. I walk into the gym, and I get nervous. What's my trainer going to have me do today? Oh, shit, you know Justin, he's a maniac. He does crazy shit. But every single time I leave, I'm like, hell yeah. I just went one step further, and then tomorrow it'll be another fear. It'll be another thing. But that's good. That's really freaking good. Get yourself out of that bubble of, I don't want to have any fear. I don't want to have any whatever. Like, that's just, to me, that's death.
Well,
to me, that's death, man.
That's how you become successful, when you face your fears. I mean, fear is good, but don't let it overpower you. I mean, you cannot not face your fears.
Yeah. Dude, I love it. Tell me about the Red Bull thing. What are you doing with Red Bull?
So one of the owners of Red Bull, his son got paralyzed. So they opened up a foundation called Wings for Life. I'm the ambassador for Wings for Life. And they're an awesome foundation because their main goal is raising money for spinal cord research, because they're not doctors or anything. And he'll tell you straight up, I don't care where a cure comes from. He just wants to see it happen. So this last year, I think they raised like $17 million.
Wow.
Just to the research I was a part of. They gave $2 million to that one. But they have a board that goes on. They're looking around the world to find out research that's going on for spinal cord injuries, and that's where the money goes. So
that's
they don't
cool.
care. Yeah, so that's what Red Bull's all about. I mean, but they do call it Wings for Life is the foundation, and their goal is to find a cure. And so because I was a part of that research, I'm a part of some groundbreaking spinal cord injury technology. My goal with them is I'm the ambassador, and we're creating awareness about what's going on and just helping make that difference, trying to find that cure, because that's what their goal is. And so that's where I've had my connections.
That's awesome. Tell me about your foundation.
So when I did get injured, once again, I also was a spokesperson. I still am when they need me anymore, but with the Christopher Reeve Foundation, and then obviously now more with Wings for Life. And so now that I'm back in Salt Lake and I live here, I started my own foundation called Dustin Shillcox Foundation, and that's helping people who are with spinal cord injuries, going through adversity. And it's just because I've had, being on with those guys, when you're with Red Bull, when you're with the Christopher Reeve Foundation, you're on stage. I've done talks with Mark Cuban, Kobe Bryant, Will Smith. I actually talked for Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook. I've been on some freaking big stages.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it was an amazing experience with those guys. And I've loved what their drive is, what their passion is with the Reeve Foundation, with Wings for Life. And when I'm back on my own term, I want to keep it going. So that's why I've started my own foundation, and I'm trying to have the same impact. Obviously, I don't have that platform, but if I can help out local people here, if I can get bigger, and I'm starting to use their platform, which is starting to make my reach bigger, and that's what I want to do, is kind of keep growing and helping people. And like for me personally, because I have a spinal cord injury, I want to walk again, and that's kind of what
it's getting you closer to that goal.
Yeah, it's definitely helping me out and helping other people. So that's basically that's what it's all about.
Hell yeah. Well, dude, we could sit and talk all day about like racing trucks and life and motivation. I think we've got some serious nuggets here for people. Like, and if you can't be motivated by what we're talking about, I mean, you can't be motivated by anything really.
No, for sure.
You know, but like you, I mean, you're a motivating guy. Like I get motivated. There's a lot of people out there that you might not think you have an impact with. Just like I feel the same way. People message me all the time, dude, you have no idea, and your message and this and this and this, and you help me. You have no idea how many people you're motivating, man. Like, you have no clue how many people look at like those pictures and videos and shit like that guys like me that wake up that are like, we push that much harder, go that much bigger, do that much more, play that much more football with the kids, do that much more business, just because, you know, we see people that have a different experience, you know, than us. And it's motivating. It's inspiring to me, because I realize that I don't have the same ailments as you. I don't have the same experiences, but it makes me appreciate, you know, what I have, because I realize that life is very much a giver, and it's also very much a taker. And it can take anything from me whenever it wants. It can give me whatever it wants. And so every single day that I experience, like, you know, no joke, I look at it as it's my last day. And that might sound really morbid to a lot of people, but I'm like, I want to live this life to this day to the fullest, because I might not get another one, or I might not have this arm tomorrow, or these eyeballs, or whatever. And so I legitimately, like, I look at guys that have gone through trials and experiences like you, and I'm like, dude, that motivates the shit out of me to just keep going, to keep pushing, to spread, you know, awareness of the motivation, you know what I mean? To just keep experiencing life. So to see you doing that, man, good for you. Good on you for motivating the people that you motivate, doing what you're doing, because it's the majority of the people that you'll help, you'll probably never hear from.
Yeah.
You'll probably never know. You'll probably never have any idea how many people you motivate, you inspire. And to me, that's like true leadership. To me, that's true inspiration, because I don't know who sees my messages, who watches the videos, who watches and never likes or never comments or whatever, that hears about my divorce or bankruptcy or depression or suicide or whatever. But like, I just keep doing me. I just keep living my life. So watching you do that, it motivates the shit out of me to go even bigger, go even further. You know, so thank you for that, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate you having me on the podcast and coming out today.
Well,
so
we're gonna do it again, man. We got to get you in the race truck.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go check it out anyway.
We need to figure that out. I told Sam that. I said, Sam, how do you feel about coming and jumping in the race truck? He's like, dude, that'd be so freaking badass, you know? Because why not? You know, why the hell not? You know what I mean? So any final shout outs that you want to give, or things that you want to say about your foundation, or anything like that?
Well, just like for the listeners.
How does everybody find you?
Well, they can find me more and the podcast at DustinShillcox.com. You know, obviously with all the social media links with Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, it's Dustin Shillcox Foundation. And for people to really get involved, if they see something that they like that I post, that they share, I mean, if you know, they can like it, share it, and you know, because they'll never know who might see that and have an impact with. I'm working right now having a book come out, so that'll be really cool.
Sweet.
And that'll be at DustinShillcox.com as well. So
nice, dude.
Yeah.
Well, we'll keep spreading the word. I'm sure you're going to be back on the podcast again soon. So thank you for sharing what you shared.
Justin on here.
Oh, dude. Well, I actually had Heather.
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah.
On and
the better half.
Yeah, the better half. She's way more attractive than he is. My friends, if you appreciate the podcast, thank you for listening. I appreciate you. Please share it. Please like it. Please make comments. Go check out my man Dustin here and share his message. I mean, there's really that's the cool part about social media, is we can spread messages really freaking quick, man. Whether you're a political candidate, whether you're trying to raise money, whether you're trying to raise awareness. So please share, please comment, please like this podcast. If you have some people that you feel would be motivated, inspired, driven by what we talked about here, please share it with them, and then leave some comments, leave some likes, and show some love for the podcast. So my friends, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Dustin, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you.
We will see you guys soon. God bless America. See you later.